Alrighty, so good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. Welcome to number 6 of our MSC IPP series. It's been a fun time. We've had different individuals here in our sessions. So just as a recap, if this is your first time joining us, a couple of things that we talked about. We talked about how you can commission as an enlisted and become a naval officer, and we also talked about specifically about the MSC IPP program, and we broke down the application a little bit. So 2 episodes ago, we had Captain Boyce and Commander Scory talk about the CO recommendation. What are the contents? What's the expectation of it? How should it sound like? Now and then a couple last week, we had Lieutenant Commander Mo Taylor, retired, talked about the letter of recommendation. Same thing. What is the tone for it? How should you prepare for it? Now we're going to talk about a lot of people were asking about this even before the video even got posted, is how about interview appraisals? I know when I was trying to apply for it, I was extremely nervous. I don't know how to prepare for it. So we brought 2 subject matter experts here, basically from the point of view of an interviewer. One of them is Commander Stephen Marty. He's a comptroller. He's been in for about 24 and a half years, so lots of experience and sat many boards many times. He was also in BUMIT for 3 years, and he was responsible for screening the MSCs and review part of the review board as well. And we also have Lieutenant Commander Christopher Peters here tonight, also a comptroller. Been in for 18 years, is currently active duty still. And he was actually, we were both prior officer recruiters, so he's very, very knowledgeable about interview appraisals. So, gentlemen, thank you for being here with us. Oh, I think Lieutenant Commander Peters disappeared. But we're going to go, and I know both of you are very busy, so we're going to go ahead and go straight to the questions. Our first question we have, sir. Bottom line, when it comes to appraisals, should I just get MSC officers? Should I even consider a nurse corps, a dental corps in that group? Can we start with you, Commander?
Yeah. That's a good question. I would highly recommend you go with a MSC. If you have a nurse corps or any other corps, you would want somebody who's in a leadership position, maybe a CO or an XO, somebody who's led MSCs that can speak to what makes you, what would make you a great MSC. Certainly, somebody who's had some sort of leadership experience, whether it's an OIC, because that's what I would want to look for, right? Not that I don't trust a nurse or a doc or any by any respect, right? Mm-hmm. But we're bringing them into our core. We know our core more so that I don't know that I would feel comfortable writing a recommendation for a nurse corps officer without having some leadership experience and leading those types of officers. So I would absolutely, if you have one, it would be somebody that needs to be a leader, and then definitely want to make sure you have some MSCs there, right? To make sure, because to me, especially as reviewing packages, you want to see that somebody, who else in the community has, in their recommendations, right? What are they writing? And if it's an MSC too, you want to make sure whoever those MSCs are, they're leaders as well, right? Because, just for I kind of hope that it's self-explanatory, right? The more leadership experience they have, the more value that recommendation, or that assessment, I should say, is going to be.
Awesome. Thank you, Commander. Lieutenant Commander
Sure.
Peters, do you have anything to add to that, sir?
Yeah, I completely agree with Commander Marty. I would just add that if you're going to have a non-MSC on there, how many interviews are required? I know for the
right now for MSC IPP, sir, it's 3.
Three.
Yes.
Okay.
It's 3, yeah.
So of the 3, I would only do 1 if you were going to ask somebody that was non-MSC, and again, yeah, someone who's had some significant leadership experience. And if you can, I would want all 3 to be MSCs, and that's just my opinion. But
okay,
yeah, I think
you definitely can have one.
I would say, just to piggyback on that, CO, XO, or a significant OIC job, to me, is where I would go. And they would need to note that, right? Like, hey, I'm currently a CO. I've worked with dozens of MSCs, and I know this person would be a good fit, kind of thing.
There you go. And also to add on to these 2 great points as well for everybody that's listening. Don't forget, we are in a new digital era. So there's Mill Suite, there's Facebook, there's different kinds of networking. And to me, at least, it's hard for me to think that there's no MSC that you can reach within your geographical area. Of course, if you're deployed or operational or other things, that would be different. But if you're in a Navy centric area like Hampton Roads or San Diego, there should be a plethora of MSCs that should be able to help you out. So thank you for those answers, gentlemen. Next question, Commander, what verbiage or key phrases when you're looking at a package or reviewing a package, what are some key phrases that you're trying to look for in an appraisal?
Yeah, so man, these are good questions. Yeah, I want to see, what they're saying about this person as a leader, right? As they look at the appraisal, do they, during the interview, are they talking about, do they understand what the, Navy life is and what it is to be in the Navy, right? You're going to become a naval officer. So no matter what you're going to end up doing, I want to see that, right? I believe this person has the ability to succeed in my wardroom, right? I always like when there's somebody that I know fits, right? I will note that I think this person's going to assimilate well. Are they going to fit in with the team? And then, I think you focus in on leadership potential and how they're going to how they would succeed. And leaning on their experience. I love when folks have civilian experience. If they're coming out of the healthcare administration world on the civilian side, I think that lends itself very well to leading to folks coming in and having some success. Highlighting their experience in the field and their leadership potential. Just, I think you can tell just based upon an interview, at least get a sense for their leadership potential and then how they're going to fit in. Do they seem like they're going to be, a team player, fit in well with the team? Because to me, you can teach anybody the basics, right? The blocking and tackling, but you can't teach people to get along or to have the right affect, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna have to have that to succeed, right?
Yeah.
Across the board. So to me, fit is almost as important, if not more important, than anything on your resume.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Like Lieutenant Commander Peters, I know we dealt with this as officer recruiters. When you're kind of getting the appraisals back from these naval officers, what were you looking for? What do you look for when if you're still reviewing MSC IPP packages or officer packages?
Well, I think for me, I definitely want to see something in there about leadership potential, as Commander was talking about. Um, you're going to be a leader in the Navy. You're not just going to go be somebody who's technical doing a job. Everybody has to know their job, but then they also have to be a leader. So there definitely has to be something in there that definitely exemplifies leadership. And then, I know a lot of these folks are, enlisted and whatnot. So some of them may have had some civilian experience, some may not. And the Navy may has been the only thing they've done. But if there's been something, extraordinary or remarkable, it's okay if it's in more than one place in your package.
Mm-hmm.
And if the person that's interviewing you is aware of that and they want to highlight that as well to make sure that the people know, like, hey, this person did something amazing, something great that's above and beyond anybody else that's out there, definitely put that in there and highlight that.
Awesome. Thank you, Lieutenant Commander. Appreciate that. Commander, next question. How real should I be on these interviews? How professionally should I be buttoned up? Because I know for my very first one, I was like sailor of the quarter mode right
Yeah.
away. So what's your recommendation when your applicant's trying to ask you for advice to prepare for this?
Yeah, listen, I think if you've got to ask the question, how buttoned up should I be? You're behind the power curve, quite frankly. Like, you're coming to us. You're asking for us. You're knocking on our door. You better be buttoned up, right? Like, I've had interviews where folks show up, the uniform looks terrible. I'm already questioning, is this person in standard?
Mm-hmm.
Or, they come in and they're smoking and joking right off the bat, sets me off. And now I'm not, and I think, Peters can attest to this. I'm not a real formal guy. Like, I've been in 25 years, 20 longer when you consider I went to military school. So I get it, right? But there is a certain sense of formality that you have to have, professionalism, if you will. And a lot of times, you can be, sailor of the year will walk in and kind of have their guard down. You definitely do not want that, right? Now, I'm not saying you have to come in and serve sandwiches and, facing movements and, there's a fine line, but do not come across like you're not taking things seriously, or you're lax on the professional side. And the reason why is the people. First of all, it's very select. It's hard to get selected, and quite frankly, if you're not a 9 or a 10 out of 10 across the board, and professionalism, personal appearance is one of the things that's in there. It makes a big difference. And to me, that's low hanging fruit, right? Like, you can control how you look, you can control your professionalism, and if you let that guard down, you're setting yourself up kind of behind the power curve.
Very good. Thank you, Commander. Appreciate that. Commander Peters, anything to add to that, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Be very professional. Come in and like Commander said, and have everything put together. And I mean, this is an interview. Like, this is for the job. Like, do you want it or not? Like, show me that you want it. Now, if we really connect and maybe we relax our guard a little bit and we go down a rabbit hole, that's cool. But like, snap back in when you got to. I mean, there's times when I've had great interviews and just really connect with the person, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you got to be professional, and we have to know that you really want this and you're squared away. We want to see that bearing.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Hey, let me just piggyback one more thing too. One
Sure,
thing
sir.
that drives me crazy, and especially if the budding DFA or administrator me, I cannot stand to see spelling errors or grammatical errors in a package. Right? If you haven't taken the time to proofread your essay or your answers to your questions, that tells me you're not that serious about your package, right? And we're going to look through that, right? I'm going to take a look. And also say, like, if you've got something in your package that is questionable, like, you went to MAST or you had some sort of weird professionalism issue, right? You better be ready to talk about that, because I'm going to ask you about it, or I'm going to expect to see, if you're going to bring it up. Because, if you think there's a hole, we'll probably have seen it, and we're going to want to see what you're going to say about it. And a lot of times I think people will not think, oh, this is buried in my package, no one's going to see that I got a D in chemistry last semester, I'll just let it slide, right? We're going to see that. And I don't really care that you got a D in calc or whatever the class is, but I'm going to ask you, hey, what's going on? If you come back with, I had 3 kids and that was just a really rough time in my life, but I bounced back and I'm getting an A right now, I'm all in on that. That sounds great, because I've gotten a D in a class in my life. I know what it's like. But if you're going to pretend like it doesn't exist and we're not going to talk about it, that tells me that, something went wrong and you don't want to talk about it.
That's a very good point, sir, because in my experience too, 2 captains actually pointed that out. Even though I wasn't applying for the USAS or Baylor program, I already had my master's degree. I was a 3.8 GPA. I was Sailor of the Year and all that. They still pointed out, what was this F about that you had in philosophy 6 years ago, Chief? And I was mind blown. I was like, why are you asking me about this? But I had to answer that question, and I had to explain the reason why I got an F and what was H and Abreu at that time and how I'm different now. So thank you for bringing that up, sir, because a lot of people forget about that. Next question. What do I do if I don't know the question you're asking me? For example, I'm a STG2 and you're asking me about DHA, and I have no clue about the DHA stuff. What's your advice for these type of things, sir?
Yeah, I think honesty in that regard is the best. Hey, I'm not familiar with that. Ask another question, follow it up with a question, or try to get them to lead you down the path, right? I certainly expect the applicants to know what the DHA is and have just a general understanding of where the MHS is headed. So, sometimes, I might get caught up in it and ask maybe a question that's a little bit too in the weeds, and then I'll sort of tease it out. But if someone starts talking about the DHA and I can quickly tell they don't know what they're talking about and they're just, BSing, then that's good. That it's just not going to play well.
Good. Commander Peters?
Yeah, be honest if you don't know. And, we've heard this before. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'd be happy to get back with you. So if you have the opportunity to ask a little bit and maybe a little bit more clarification, or can you ask it, or can you pose the question in another way? That might be an option for you. But, again, if you don't know, just be honest and, come back and answer that question for them later.
Yes, do not shoot from the hip. I had a lot of mentees that was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip." Don't shoot from
No.
the hip, especially if you're talking to senior MSC officers who've been in the game for about 20 plus years. They know if you're BSing. They probably created that policy or that mission, that vision or something. So do not shoot from the hip. As these two gentlemen said, just be honest and upfront. A couple more things, sir, and then we'll wrap up here. Thoughts on getting as many appraisals as I can to get the three perfect one. I heard one captain labeled this as interview appraisal shopping.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would be careful with that, but I do think you got to be targeted in who you're having write your appraisal, right? I think sometimes folks are afraid to reach out to senior leaders because they think senior leaders, I don't know you, I'm not going to write you an appraisal. My thing is, if I'm going to write you an appraisal, right, I'm going to give you my honest assessment. And more often than not, if I have an appraisal that I think, for some reason there was a bad day, I'll just tell the candidate, like, hey, look, you probably don't want my appraisal. Yeah, I'll tell you, like, you know what, maybe it was a bad day or whatever. I'll give you my constructive feedback. Now, if they still ask for it, I'll give it to them, but I'm not going to give you a 10 out of 10 if I didn't think you're a 10 out of 10. So I'll try not to handicap somebody in that respect, if I think you had a bad day. But I do think you want to make sure that you target, like, I absolutely look at who wrote the assessment, right? And if you get the senior leaders out there that are well-respected leaders in the MSC community, it sets the package off almost like, hey, if I'll give you an example. Like if Captain Case says that you're going to be a great MSC, he's a Surgeon General's EA right now, pretty much going to go with Captain Case because he's like the grandfather, if you will, of all MSCs, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he's a post command CO, right? So those are the type of leaders that you want to get, as opposed to just a MSC, right? So I think that you want to be targeted in who you ask, and ask those senior leaders that have the right level of experience and expertise. And then, if you ask five, you'll get three yeses, right? I think that any senior leader who does this is going to want to do it. We want to bring in good people to the core, right? So I just would tell folks not to be afraid, and really, if you're not a little bit uncomfortable asking the folks, you probably haven't asked the right folks just yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion on it.
Perfect. Thank you, Commander. Commander Peters.
Yeah, if you have to ask 10 people for 3 interviews, you may not be ready yet. Just to be honest, you may not be ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to do your homework and have been performing up to this point. And, if you go in and you're not doing well in the interviews, then there's something you need to talk to somebody and hopefully get some good feedback from those people that you interviewed with to figure out what it is that's keeping you from doing well.
Awesome. Thank you for that, sir. And one thing too that I learned with these is, if feel free to reach back to for these individuals, like what can I do better for this appraisal? Because I saw that you gave me I remember this Captain Lewis gave me a 7 and one aspect of that, and I reached out and I said, sir, I noticed that you gave me a 7 on this. I really want to do better on this aspect. And that was the only appraisal that stood out to me. And he actually sat down with me and said, this is why A, B, C, and D. So thank you for those points, gentlemen. One last question. Your advice to these aspiring MSC officers. If you could give them a couple of advice, what would that be, Commander?
Oh man, this is so good, right? I think we hit a lot of the big things.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, again, make sure your package is clean, right? No spelling errors, that your statements are good, there's no grammatical, errors and things like that. Because we're gonna any interviewer is gonna do their due diligence in looking through your package, right? If there's a hole, be ready to explain it. And I say hole, bad grade, conduct issue, whatever. It could be 20 years ago. Just be ready to explain it. Tell me what you learned from it, right? That might be the gem of your interview, even though you think it's a hole in your application, right? And then I think those interview appraisals are really important, making sure that you're getting the right appraisals. And then the last thing, and we haven't talked about this, is definitely do your homework on where Navy medicine is heading, and where the Navy is in terms of the DHA and the MHS training. Those things. What are the big ticket things that are going on in the MHS, right? You need to be ready. You got to do your homework for the interview. You don't go sit down for a job interview and not study what who the leaders are and what their priorities are, right? Like,
Mhm.
Admiral Gillingham just took over as SG. We're going to ask the candidates, do you know what Admiral Gillingham's priorities are? And that's not for me to find out, his, like, I don't care that you have to memorize. I just want to know that you know who Admiral Gillingham is and you got at least some idea of where BUMED is headed.
Mhm.
If you don't, that tells me that you're probably not ready yet.
There you go. Thank you, Commander. Appreciate that. Commander Peters?
This is super hard. It's super competitive, and you're gonna get your heart broke. But don't give up. Don't give up. You have to eat it, breathe it, think about it, study it, keep you up at night, stress about it, and fight for it. A lot of people, they apply several times before they get picked up. You can't be discouraged by that. It's going to happen. Okay. There's going to be some that just get it first time. Great. Congratulations. But a lot of us, we have to keep doing it. So, just know that may come. And then if you want it, then you got to get up and you got to keep coming back. All right. You just got to keep coming back.
Awesome. Determination and doing your homework. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I know you both are very, very busy individuals. Thank you for giving a couple minutes of your time to everybody that was watching. Those questions came directly from the group that we're watching. So have a good evening, gentlemen. Good afternoon, wherever you're at. And we hope to talk to you soon again on our next few episodes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Take it easy.